dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
After a successful start to the AI series last week at the Bullring, I was about to say the Red Bull Ring, at the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we come here now to USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida for round number 2 of this AI season. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening here tonight. Alongside me, as always, my broadcast partner, Tony Trapasso. Tony, a great race to open up this season at the Bullring last week. This is one of the bigger tracks that we're going to go to on this schedule. Should provide a lot of great racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think we could have asked for a better opener than what we saw at the Bullring last week in Vegas. And, you know, I'm expecting something along the similar lines to be here tonight at Lakeland in USA Speedway. USA is one of those tracks that you don't see much of once you get out of the rookie division of iRacing. So it's good to see what the higher tier cars can do here. You know, this should be a good dichotomy as far as haves and have-nots.
Now, this is a racetrack, you're right. It doesn't get a lot of play as you go higher and higher up in the licenses. But you do get some play in these. The super late models do come here every now and again. The late models, the Chevy Impala,
Yes.
do come here. The street stocks, the C-Class street stocks, will come here, and so will the modifieds. But if you're into full fender stock car racing, there really isn't much action at this racetrack beyond D-Class.
No, there isn't, and it's kind of a shame because, this is one of the first tracks that you actually get to race on in iRacing. This is one of the was it two or three rookie class pavement tracks that they use, and the fact that we're able to come here with this caliber of field, I think we're in for a real treat tonight, Frank.
It's a special racetrack for me as well because in rookie street stocks, this is where I got my first ever win on iRacing here as well.
Congratulations.
Yep. We'll take a look at the point standings coming out of the Bullring at Las Vegas and coming here to USA. Jake Drew had a dominating race. If you read in the pre-race blurb there, led
153 laps
out of the 175.
Good.
Was absolutely unstoppable last week. Austin Herzog put on a late race run, but unfortunately it just was not enough to beat Jake Drew out. Sean Woodside, Walt Cloud, Trevor Huddleston, who took the pole for the season opening race, got very close as well. But as you can see, the point standings, it's one of the old ASA point standings that we're running with here to kind of keep with that short track, late model feel. These guys are going to be close all season long.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's good to see you going back to the old points because the old ASA series is where a lot of the who's who that either are in or will be soon into the NASCAR Hall of Fame came through. You've got guys like Mark Martin, you've got guys like Rusty Wallace, Mike Wallace, Kenny Wallace, Jimmy Spencer, Dick Trickle. Those guys all came through the ASA ranks. And if you can be proficient on a short track, the bigger tracks are going to come a whole lot easier to you.
Absolutely. We're just finishing up the practice session now as you just see it turn over as we speak. Once again, qualifying is going to be lightning quick here. These guys do not waste any time. They go out. They're some of the first ones out onto the racing surface. Everyone goes out at the same time. It is kind of unfortunate because we don't get to see, oh, well, wait a second, maybe someone's going to go out a little bit later the way we do with real guys. We get pretty much all of them in one burst.
Absolutely, as we're watching along with
Josh Berry in the 8.
Yep, that is Josh Berry in the 8, as he's got a good head of steam taking the green flag.
Yep, so Berry will take his first lap through. We'll take a look now. Trevor Huddleston, who set pole at the Bullring to open up the season. He will be one of the first to set a benchmark time. It's actually going to be Cole. No, it's not. It's going to be Parker Traves in the number 60, who has the fastest time so far. Now, he had a rough go of it last week, pulled into the pits before starting lap 3 last week, didn't come out again until lap 18, was 17 laps down the entirety of the race. And right now, it appears as though at least he'll start fourth with Cole Moore jumping to the point. Eddie McDonald was on a flyer. That lap is done. John Moore will be the penultimate driver to cross the line here to set a time. And
Andy Allen on a ripper.
I believe they're done, actually, as there's Walt Clow starting 18th. Where did the 27 of John Moore go? There he is in 14th position. So these guys just taking that extra practice lap, and why not?
And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week when we went to the Bullring. With the level of driver quality in this field, any driver can rip one off at any time.
Yeah, but we had spoken so much about it last week, trying to prepare everyone for what they were going to see this season. The AI difficulty or competition level is ratcheted all the way up. 125% ability is the ceiling. 125% ability is the floor. So you could see a guy like Ty Majeski, who had a very bad race at the Bullring last week. He could come here and just instantly walk the dog on the rest of this field. This field is going to be shuffled up all season long.
Well, it's going to be an uphill battle for Majeski as he's going to roll off 23rd quick here tonight.
Yep, and again, we will break the immersion again to get through the qualifying session here.
Frank, check your IMs.
Yeah, we will we'll go to the grid here momentarily as the sim works its way into the actual race session. We will now go to the grid here for tonight's race. And starting on pole will be Cole Moore, a 20.134 the benchmark time. Dominic Lopez comes within 1/1000th of a second of taking the pole. That will be row number 1. Tanner Reef and Parker Traves will make up row number 2. Eddie MacDonald and Blaine Roca will sit in row 3. Trevor Huddleston and Andy Allen in row 4. Austin Herzog and Carson Quapple in row number 5. Derek Kraus and Tony Breedinger will make up row number 6. Row 7 goes to Derek Griffith and John Moore.
Corey Heim for Venturini Motorsports going to roll off in row number 8. He's going to be joined with Jake Drew in the 6th. Mark Wirtz and Walt Clow are going to roll off in row number 9. Row 10 sees Josh Berry for Junior Motorsports, and he's going to be joined with our good friend up from the Great White North, Wayne Stokes, in the 92. Sean Woodside and Sammy Smith rolling off in row 11. Row 12 sees Ty Majeski for Cunningham Roush Fenway. He's going to be joined with the 81 of Colby Howard in row 12. Row number 13 goes to Jeremy Doss and Gio Selzy. And starting shotgun on the field is going to be Austin Maynard in the 29. And interesting thing to make note of, Frank, less than 1/10 of a second separating the top 23 starting positions.
I think we had that or something very similar at the Bullring. At the Bullring last week. Take a look at the weather conditions. We are just past 8 o'clock p.m. here tonight. Track conditions are a little bit higher, a little bit warmer than what they were at the Bullring. It was 69 degrees, roughly, the track temperature, 66 degree ambient temperature. That has changed a little bit. 67 degree ambient temperature here tonight in Lakeland, Florida, bringing the track temperature up to 80 degrees. And unlike last week, we will see a lot of racing in the nighttime. That's what I was going for.
Absolutely. And, that 4 mile an hour wind means they're going to be catching a cross breeze coming out of turn 2 as soon as they clear the billboards. So should be something to be mindful of. We might see some cars starting to skate, especially on cold tires, coming out of 2.
Yep, absolutely. And this is, again, going to be a very entertaining night and a different race from what we saw last week at the Bullring. At the Bullring, there was really no escape. The straightaways were short. The corners were tight. Here, you have wide corners and long straightaways here. It's still only still only a quarter of a mile, but it's a lot bigger feeling a racetrack than what we had at the Bullring last week.
Well, it's 3/4 as opposed to 3/8, so just about double the size. And you're right. It's going to be a little bit different feel. It's a lot flatter around USA than it was at the Bullring. And, traction is going to be at a premium. And you can see that there's not really a second lane formed yet from the black marks in the corners. Everybody's been running that low side. Nobody really trying to work in the second lane yet. So we're probably going to see those black lines move a little bit further and further out from the apron as the night wears on. But in the early going, you're going to get freight trained if you end up on that outside lane.
And this is one of those racetracks where an outside lane actually can work in these bigger, heavier, bulkier stock cars as compared to a Bullring or at Lanier, which is where we're going next week. Myrtle Beach is also another track where you could kind of work the outside line. But again, we talked about it. I believe the last time we were here for a broadcast was for the Maestro's ARCA series.
Yes.
Right around the time I actually came back from my little hiatuses. This is a racetrack that everybody should know in the iRacing service because this is a low license racetrack. This is, as you mentioned, one of the first racetracks that you see on the service.
Right. Between the rookie division, it bounces back and forth between this track and the Charlotte Quad Oval. So, every driver has most likely been through this track at least one time. Most of us learn our lesson then to not come back, but I'm kidding when I say this. But, we're in for a treat tonight. It's going to be fun to see, just how well the coders and scripters at iRacing programmed these cars to run here. And I dare say we're going to see very similar results to what we saw at the Bullring with, somebody's going to get into clean air. They're going to get a good gap going until they catch the lap cars, and then it's going to get fun again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be quite a race here, and we saw great racing all throughout the field, especially in the mid-pack and at the back. And as you had mentioned, and we had said during the race last week, don't be surprised if it gets strung out at the front, but then once we get to the lap cars, it'll all bunch up again. And I want to correct something I said last week. These guys are at 50% fuel fill, not 60. So that even closes the fuel tank even tighter around these guys as we get set to go, Tony.
Absolutely. As the field works its way into the 3-4 complex, pace car gets ready to make that hard left turn onto pit road. The only thing that's left for me to say is it's time to wipe the visor, adjust the 5-point harness. Grandma, pop some popcorn because it's time to get it on in Lakeland. Race fans, it's showtime.
A great jump there once again by Cole Moore. These guys, that is one thing that the AI did get right, or to try to get it most humanly as possible. They don't wait to go. You have to force guys to actually wait to go. They don't here. Once that pace car is off, they're off and running, and still side by side, 3 wide here in the mid-pack, just inside the top 10.
A little early for that, don't you think? Hang on to her, boys.
As you said, Derek Krause right on cue, making it 3 wide again. 3 abreast just in front of them.
I mean, this track is wide enough that you can do it. It's just, it's something we don't. Most terrifying thing you could hear your spotter say is 3 wide, you're the meat. Second most terrifying thing is 3 wide, you're on the outside. Especially in the tight confines like here.
Riding on board with Derek Krause, and as you said, the aggression right on cue. Making it 3 wide, reckless abandon.
And am I the only one that finds it hilarious that Tony is driving the Hair Club for Men car?
Well, there you go. Still, again, 3 wide is what Krause really had to let off there to keep from bouncing into the wall. But even there's last week's winner, Jake Drew, put on a dominating performance. And like I said, the back of the field is going to be really crazy here. Drew getting shuffled, or somewhat getting shuffled to the back.
No quarter asked for, no quarter given. As
I would say, to change that for AI, I would say no quarter asked for, no quarter programmed.
Exactly. Exactly. As, oh man.
It's just
there's
so much
action.
Oh, there
3
you go.
wide again. Frank, check your PMs.
Yep, that's that 100%. That's that 125% aggression. Pardon me. That's that 125% aggression and 0% consistency, bringing some of these moves in here.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that was probably the best, worst idea you've ever had.
Well, there you go. Try to force a little bit of action.
Oh, there's a lot of it action right now.
Yeah, we got a couple things going on
I don't even know where to look.
Walt Clow on the outside.
Good grief, 3 wide again.
Oh, hold on to her. It's Corey Heim in the middle of 3 wide. Carson Quapple on the outside, just barely keeping it out of the wall.
I don't think there was barely about it. You can see a little bit of paint scuff on the right side of that car.
And as we had mentioned last week, there is damage in this series. And there are no fast repairs. So if there is a wreck, you're in trouble. As Quapple still getting very, very comfy with that wall.
And, you know, like we were talking about, zero quarter asked for, zero quarter program. ZFG, my friend. ZFG.
And it's also notable, this is for 15th, by the way, this battle here. The race leaders up towards the front, as we had mentioned before, have kind of broken away here, which is natural. You know, clean air, you get a little bit better of a run.
Yeah.
Dominic Lopez running right now in the 2nd position in his number 24. Tanner Reef, Parker Treves, Blaine Roca there as well. That's your top 5, with Eddie McDonald close behind.
And the only one that was in the top 5 last week that's up there is that 98. I mean, the 99 was up there for most of the race.
Yeah, that finished in the top 5, yes.
Right, right.
Cole Moore was running in 2nd a vast majority of the race. Tanner Reef was battling just inside the top 5 most of the race. They ended up finishing, I believe, outside the top 15, if I remember correctly. Blaine Roca, you're right, finished 5th at the Bullring. Austin Herzog, the 2nd place finisher, running in 7th right now. He has Trevor Huddleston right behind him. And dadgummit, we're already 16 laps into this race.
Absolutely. It was just amazing to watch the AI go around this place. I mean, you can really see what is possible when you take the emotion out of it.
Absolutely. Emotion sometimes is what's the most fun about it, is Jake Drew still has not cleared Travis Quapple. I knew I was going to do that at some point.
You did it twice last week, but I didn't want to point it out to you.
I did?
Yeah, you did it twice last week.
Didn't even catch it. Carson Quapple on the outside.
Thanks, Dad.
Son of Travis, yes.
Still side by side, and you got to think those two are stacking them up behind them as, they're 2 wide and 2 wide, and that whole group behind them is starting to catch these two as neither one of them can get the run that they want going into or out of the corner, and it's starting to really, log jam it.
So on board is Sean Woodside. Speaking of people who finished in the top 5 last week, finishing 3rd, collecting the first AI podium here on ESBN. Jumping dive under Josh Berry, and that's something we've been conditioned to see, as there's gonna be a wreck right now.
Yeah.
But these AIs, that superhuman grip that these AIs have, is this is just outside the top 20. This is Ty Majeski in the number 90, the number 91, Sammy Smith in the 51 leading this group. Austin Maynard there, Wayne Stokes there. Wayne Stokes, one of 2 DNFs at the Bullring last week. Sorry, the only DNF at the Bullring last week.
Yep. Engine trouble, had that thing overheat, and hopefully they've got that sorted out for this week, as we're in a little bit warmer conditions here in Lakeland, Florida. You know, you would expect Vegas to be warmer, but, you know, we're almost 10 full degrees hotter at showtime. And there is Stokes out of Letterkenny, Ontario, Canada. I hear you play some pretty mean hockey in the off-season.
So I've heard. And yes, if for anyone who's wondering, yes, Wayne Stokes out of Letterkenny, Ontario for Shamrock Motorsports. Yes, this is an Easter egg. If you know, you know.
It just shows how twisted Frank and I are.
The last name is not accurate, but it is the last name on the car, so we kind of had to stick with it.
You're 10-ply, bud.
Mark Wirtz out here as well. Race lead again is broken away. Cole Moore 1.4 seconds ahead of Dominic Lopez, who's about 1.25 seconds ahead of Tanner Reef. And then we start getting back to closer action. Andy Allen looking to the outside of Eddie McDonald. He's going to end up losing 2 spots as here comes Derek Kraus through as well.
Yeah, Kraus trying to have a better race this week than he did last week. He was just mired deep in the field and actually finished a lap down. Not something you normally see out of that team, but with the quality of drivers that are in this field tonight, and this whole season is going to be just a loaded gun, and any one of those bullets can fire at any time, as Kraus not having his own way of it in the mid-pack right now. Certainly
is not, as Kraus is looking to move forward a little bit, but he's holding up that bottom lane just a little bit. Tony Breedinger in the number 25. One of the 2 Venturini Motorsports entries here tonight. The other one is the 20 of Corey Heim, not that far behind her. Jump on board with Corey. Corey Heim, an ARCA Series regular in this number 20. Made a couple of truck and Xfinity starts here recently, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And once again, just as we were towards the back of the pack, we are side by side by side.
Almost 3 wide.
Yeah, it's Derek Griffith in the 12 on the inside.
Griffith's running a really weird line, too, because he's not going all the way out to the wall like you would normally see. You know, and he's got the room.
That's one of the quirkiness of AI programming sometimes, is you get a run, they end up running some awkward lines, as we're seeing like guys like Derek Kraus and other guys running the inside line. They're content to stay about a lane or 2 off the bottom, even on the straightaways, when in real life you run up as close to the guy next to you as you possibly can. So while it may look like Griffith is taking an awkward line in the middle just because no one else is going there, that's more or less the line you would actually see them run if it was human controlled.
Yeah, to an extent, but oh boy.
3 wide, Corey Heim. Griffith on the inside. Watch out, we're getting close here.
Luckily with the AI, you don't have to worry about netcode, because that would be a sure netcode case if this were real-life controlled driving.
Top 3 are getting quite close. Tanner Reef, Parker Traves, Blaine Roca. Austin Herzog there as well, as Trevor Huddleston is starting to fall off a little bit. As Cole Moore continues to lead here It's a battle for third place on your screen between these four.
And this is kind of where what they were doing last week at the Bullring. You know, these four were slugging it out for most of the race as well.
Traves a little less so. He may have been slugging out with them, but it wasn't for position, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, no, he had bad luck there at the start, but, you know, a lot better luck this week so far.
Still going back to this battle. This is for the final position inside the top 10. Bredinger, Kraus, Heim, Griffith now starting to really fall back. He's about a second off of this group now. John Moore has fallen back as well with him as they battle side by side. Carson Quapple there as well.
You can see that black line starting to form in that second groove, so they're starting to put some rubber down on the top side, so second lane starting to come in.
And you can see these guys able to hold. Now, while this is a lot flatter a racetrack than what it was at the Bullring last week, this is still, you still have pretty decently banked corners for a flat racetrack here, and unlike a Martinsville, where the turns are, well, one, a lot wider here than at Martinsville, it's also one type of racing surface. It's not a change from concrete to asphalt. This is full asphalt here on this banking, and a lot wider circumference of a turn and a lot wider as far as width.
Right, so you can actually start to wear that line in and make it happen as we battle for third, hot and heavy right now.
It's Tanner Reef on the inside line, kind of getting freight trained a little bit as Traves in the 60 on the outside. Blaine Roca. Now, for those of you who are watching this and do watch like the Spears Super Late Model Series, if we're pronouncing any names wrong, if you see an age or location wrong, please do let us know in the chat, and we will fix those. We don't want to be wrong, especially pronunciations. We don't want to get those wrong.
I make no promises on pronunciations.
Yes.
Never have, never will. But, you know, we will definitely try to make any, you know, clerical errors, you know, we'll try to fix those as best as we possibly can. But
see three of those Spears.
Grief.
Yeah, those three of those Spears late model cars right there. The 98, the 11, and the 50, as Herzog now starting to fall back as Trevor Huddleston picked the outside line, and at least for the moment picked correctly, as Tanner Reef and Parker Traves still duking it out up at the front of this group. Get a battle for third here. These guys are continuing to lose pace to the race leaders. Dominic Lopez is only 1.7 seconds off of Cole Moore at the front of this, but these guys are now 3.5 seconds. 3 3/4 seconds now, almost 4 seconds off of second place Dominic Lopez.
Yeah, absolutely is. You know, they're trying to get it sorted out, but you know, the side-by-side is definitely not helping at all.
On board inside the right front wheel well of the number 17 MA of Eddie McDonald.
Frank, check your PM.
Yep, we're going to see once again those brake rotors, and they're not glowing nearly as red hot as they were last week at the Bullring, because here with the longer straightaways you do have a little bit of room to breathe, and you can let those brake rotors cool down a little bit, as you can see.
Yep, as you see the glow start to fade and then come right back as soon as they get into the corner.
Big wiggle there. You heard Eddie have to let out of the gas there. Very under controlled, that number 17, as he has Andy Allen Another one of the elder statesmen in this series. And you don't really find too many 20 or 30-year-olds running in these type of series. It's usually guys in their teens trying to make their way up, or it's guys in their 40s and their 50s. Eddie McDonald, Andy Allen, Sean Woodside, Mark Wirtz. These are all guys that would fit the 40 to 50 category as Dominic Lopez comes down pit road a third of the way through this race. So it looks like we're going to have 2 pit stops here tonight as compared to the 1 that we saw for most guys at the Bullring.
Well, it makes sense considering, you've got the track that's almost twice the size, so when you break it all down, you would kind of expect to see more frequent pitting as we are working lap 53 of 150 as it's Kraus and Bradinger bringing them down.
Xander Reef, Parker Traves in there as well. Walt Clow behind them. Cole Moore brings it in. So does Austin Herzog. And you can tell it's a tight turn there. And boy, Corey Heim went back for the last possible second. It's quite a tight, flat turn there. And the line is the cones, not the wall. So you do have a little bit of room to run as Blaine Roca with the pit cycle has the race lead. He now gives that up to Derek Griffith. Will be the race leader here as Carson Kvapil comes in.
I'm trying to stay out to get that all-important bonus point for leading a lap as Majeski working the inside of the 8 right now.
This is for second. 2 guys that know each other very well from the upper echelon of NASCAR in the Truck Series and in the Xfinity Series. And it will be Josh Berry on the outside who leads that lap. Just getting around Sean Woodside right now. Cole Moore has gotten back out to the front of the queue, at least as far as guys who have not come into pit road. However, his stranglehold on the race lead, or the effective race lead, has diminished quite a bit. It's come down by about 1.25 seconds as here comes Majeski into pit road. I think Josh Berry might have wanted to go down pit road, but he had Sammy Smith to his inside and couldn't get down.
Still has Smith there as he's going to let Smith get clear coming through 1 and 2. Yikes.
Bottleneck as that was Austin Maynard in the 29 that was trying to come down. Now here comes Berry.
Almost locks him up trying to get on pit road with a charge.
You'll lose a lap on pit road here. This is the battle for the race lead right now. There's the 99 of Cole Moore flashing past the bottom of your screen, and there is Dominic Lopez in the 24, running in second currently.
Much better drive for Lopez this week than we saw him have last week at the Bullring. But, that's kind of to be expected considering that, that track is not that easy to get around.
It's absolutely not. Part of the reason why we don't see it often as far as leagues are concerned on the iRacing service. Don't see it as far as just official races as well.
Now, you normally see that track only used during week 13 in cars that have no business being on that track.
Exactly right. Is battle for 8th brewing here. That's Blaine Roca in the 98. Tony Breedinger in the 25. Austin Herzog in the 11. Jake Drew, the winner at the Bullring, coming up closely behind.
Trying to claw his way back into the top 10 for the first time tonight, as Breedinger currently has that spot. Herzog going to get by on the inside, and he's going to bring the 9 with him. 6 with him, sorry.
There is Jake Drew. Derek Kraus right there as well. Battle further up the road. Parker Traves looking to stay in the top 5, but not for long, as here comes Andy Allen on the inside in the 22A. Close battle in here, and we're inching closer and closer to halfway. Jake Drew going back to that battle just outside the top 10. Drew has now lost his battle against Breedinger and is now looking to keep Derek Kraus behind him.
And that's never an easy thing to do. Anybody that's ever watched a K&N East or West Series race with those two going hammer and tongs, it very quickly turns into pitchforks and axe handles whenever those two are near each other on track.
It certainly does. This is the Sunrise Ford Racing teammate to Jake Drew, Tanner Reith, trying to keep Trevor Huddleston behind him. And Huddleston winning the pole last week, finishing, I believe, 5th, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Trying to fight now for the final spot on the podium. Allen and Traves still have not figured this little squabble out. Corey Heim here as well. Blaine Roca and Austin Herzog starting to slowly move their way towards this trio.
And if you hadn't told me we were watching an AI race, I would have thought this would have been a top split in the iRacing servers. Simply because a lot of these drivers do have iRacing accounts. They do, put in work in the servers, and it's always a good time to watch skilled drivers do what they do best, and that's put on a show like we've seen the past couple of weeks.
Absolutely. John Moore looking to the outside of Jake Drew. And to your point, difficult to keep Derek Kraus behind you. Jake Drew has not done that. Kraus has gotten around him for the 11th position and now is in the process of trying to make up the 2.5 seconds they lost to Tony Breedinger for 10th.
And it's that simple to lose that much time here when you get racing side by side, because the outside car can't arc the corner and the inside car can't get the run off the corner. So you both give up time running side by side. But Kraus doing what he can to try to reel in the young lady there, and doing it quite effectively right now.
Breedinger about a 10th or so slower per lap. Take a look at the lap time history here. You can kind of tell at what point Kraus finally got around Jake Drew. Go from being a half a second slower to being about 3/4 of a tenth slower. That, something definitely changed there.
Yeah, it's called having clean air getting to the front of your super late model, so that you can let that, and these cars do have a little bit of a splitter on them now, which, in the past, it never had that. And it really changes the way that this car initiates the turn. If you get clean air to the front of these cars, especially in qualifying trim with the full tape, the front of this car sticks so incredibly well now that it almost feels like a completely different car than in the past with the super late model package that iRacing was giving us.
And that shot right there, you could definitely see that the jut out of that chin on the front of these cars. That is not a skirt the way it used to be in the past, or the way it is on the ARCA car in the iRacing sim. That is a splitter, as Tony mentioned, and that was one of the things that came out when these cars were updated. Probably or for
a year ago.
Yeah, about 2021 season 3 when they gave the free update to these cars, that was one of the big things they added. The nose is a little bit more aerodynamic, and they gave them that splitter as well as the clear spoiler we're seeing on the back of them.
You know, and the thing is, don't let it fool you that, you know, you've got some cars that are, you know, lettered up as Mustangs. You've got some cars that are lettered up as Camaros. You've got Toyotas. I think I saw a Dodge in there at one point. But it's all the same 5-star template body.
Yes.
It's just, you know, your decal package has to match your engine manufacturer.
And that's also another thing that is replicated in the iRacing sim, is that you can change the decal package to make the front end of your car look a little bit different. Forget about the custom paint scheme in the actual paint shop, where you can change the number and you can change the basic color of your car. You can put the 2 different sponsors on there. You can also change what the front decals on your car look like as well.
Or you can completely leave them off, like we've seen a couple cars.
So John Moore in 13th. He's still trying to get around Jake Drew, but no one has tried really to get around Cole Moore. Started from the pole, has led a vast majority of the laps here tonight, currently holds a 3.3 second lead over his closest competitor, Dominic Lopez. He's mired in lap traffic just past halfway here at the USA International Speedway. We'll be back right after this. Drivers that took time, all of them within 3.5 tenths of each other tonight, is going to be a very closely competitive race.
As the field worked its way out of the 3-4 complex, the only thing that's left to say is wipe the visor, adjust the 5-point safety harness, because race fans, it's showtime!
Amazing looking cars already. Green flag will fly.
Well, oh, the rocket! Well, one thing that you're going to see at this track that we haven't seen the last few weeks is a surface that's multi-group. I think this is the first multi-group surface we're going to have.
After an amazing race at Daytona, we now come to the West Coast and Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California for the second round of the Way She Goes Racing League Cup Series.
"60 laps to go here from the USA International Speedway. You are watching the Super Late Model iRacing Series. The Super Late Model AI Series. That's on iRacing. That's where I was going with that. Cole Moore has dominated the race here today. His 3 1/4 second lead has now dwindled to about 2.5. Tanner Reef is now in a 3-way battle for his 3rd position. Trevor Huddleston on the outside. Parker Traves there as well. And Tony, we've had great racing all over the place here tonight.
Yes, we have, and there's been times where, neither one of us has really known where to look. Mm-hmm. But, in the closing laps here, we expect to see one more pit stop out of these guys, as they're about 53 laps is all you can really expect out of a tank and go fast here. I don't think anybody has taken tires, but as you would expect with the super late model, you normally don't see green flag tire changes with these cars, solely because with a wide 5 lug, it takes so long to do a tire change.
And these pit stops are long enough as it is. I'm seeing between 23 and 26, 27 seconds for some of these guys. A couple 30-second stops for some either bad stops or just miscues. It's quite all over the board as far as pit stops are concerned here tonight, as still that outside line is able to hold, but the inside line, the run that the inside has going through these corners, is able to maintain, or is able to get back what they lose.
And it has to do a lot with the fact that this is a short track, or a flat track, I should say. And you run so much shorter of a distance in that first lane as opposed to the second or third lane, that's why you're seeing it so difficult to make something happen from that second lane. Even though they do have a good strip of rubber laid down up there, they're just having to go so much further around the track. It's 3/4 of a mile around the inside line. Once you get to that outside line, you're probably looking closer to 9/10.
You're hearing just how much these guys are having to pedal as we're riding on board again with Andy Allen. You just see how violent and how quick the AI just jams the brakes on and throws the car over into the corner. Oh, almost into the wall there for Allen.
Definitely on the razor's edge, that's for sure.
Passed now by Corey Heim on the inside. No issues yet as far as DNFs. Everyone's still looking good. And as we had mentioned last week, this is not a series where if you're expecting a lot of cautions, you're not going to get them. The AI on ovals is rather competent. So it's going to be, these races are going to be done and dusted rather quickly here, as we're already 2/3 of the way through this race, and we're just 35 minutes of actual race time, as here comes Tanner Reef down and into pit road. Dominic Lopez from second is in, as now the second run of pit stops begins.
As you would expect, right around that 50-52 lap mark, as the leader hits pit road with a full head of steam, almost locking him up.
See if we can get on board here. We're riding on board. This is with Trevor Huddleston, who will lead this lap. No bonus points for laps led. It's just straight points for finishing position. And now you're seeing, yeah, he's coming in now. Just see how abrupt this pit entry is here. Brings it in from 70 down to 40 in that short amount of time.
Would have been fun to see what the brake rotors looked like when they made that dive.
Yo, we'll try to do that here with Blaine Roca. Let's see, because he has not come in on his second stop yet. Riding on board with the 98 of Roca, and once we get a gauge that he's going into pit road, we'll go to the rotor.
Should be this time.
No, he took the wide line out of 2, so he's going to stay out again. Derek Griffith behind. So there goes Roca beyond pit road. There's Huddleston on his way out. And if these guys take the wide line, that's the cue. They can't really take the wide line now. As Walt Cloud makes it 3 wide up the middle. Griffith trying to get out of the way. Let's see if we can find with Roca here. Oh, he's still staying out. And once again, Cole Moore's lead on Dominic Lopez has gone down. What was about 3.5 seconds is now just 2.5. But it does look like it's going to take a miracle for somebody to beat this 99 today, who has been so good. Here comes Roca now into the box.
Jeepers, look at that thing glow.
Really lit them up coming in. And you can just see the gradual cooling. It's going to be a little bit slower here on pit road because you're not getting as much air into them. As here's Ty Majeski.
Frank, check your PMs.
Ty Majeski will now take over the race lead.
Now, has Majeski done his money stop yet? I don't think so.
No, he has not. Josh Berry has come in from second, so there are only 2 drivers on track right now, Ty Majeski and Austin Maynard, that have not come into pit for the final stop, and now make that just Ty Majeski, as here comes Maynard in that number 29 down pit road. And for what it looks like, Majeski's going to stay out a little bit more. Speaking of Moore, Cole Moore has now jumped up to second. There he is. Coming out of turn 4, that's turn 2, pardon me. Now coming out of turn 4. Andy Allen currently running in the 4th position. Andy Allen's at a podium spot right now.
Question is, can he maintain it through the checkers? As we're working lap 113 of 150 here at USA Speedway in lovely Lakeland, Florida.
Parker Traves, I'm sure, is not going to be entertained by this, as Majeski holding that outside lane up. And Traves is trying to catch that 22A for position. Derek Kraus there, battling with Jeremy Doss. Now, Jeremy Doss running in the 25th position, so he is of no consequence to any of the guys here, but boy, that came close.
I know it's computer controlled, but whenever I see 3 wide at a short track, it always makes me just cringe.
And that's what we were talking about before is, get the wrong camera there. That's what I was talking about before is when we see something like that, or when we see these guys breaking into corners so late and diving it in awkward positions, we've been conditioned to think that, okay, there's going to be a wreck now. So when something like that happens and no wreck happens, you still have that reaction because that's what you're expecting. We've seen it so often.
Oh, yeah. I really think this series is going to spoil us as far as...
It's the leader, Ty Majeski, in. That will give Cole Moore his race lead back. Cole Moore, who I do not believe has been passed on track, period, here tonight. Only laps the only laps he has not led tonight have been inside the pit cycle. That's it.
And it's kind of what we saw last week at the Bullring, with the 9, led from pillar to post as far as green flag laps under anger that didn't involve the pit stops. And we're seeing that I dare say we're going to see that all season long. Whoever can get the lead on the get is going to be in good shape throughout the rest of the event.
And part of the reason why we had said last week that we're going to see the front group of guys get out to the lead, and then once they get to lap traffic, it'll start to bunch back up again. I think part of the reason why we're not seeing that here is because this track is so much bigger. This is one of the biggest racetracks we're going to go to all season long. Just looking at the schedule right now, 3/8 of a mile, half a mile, 6/10 of a mile, 4/10 of a mile, 4/10 of a mile. This is just outside of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which is 1.5 miles. Only this and Lucas Oil are 3/4 of a mile or longer.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're going to see completely different racing at IRP.
Yes.
Because that is an outside lane track. And it's going to be interesting to see if these AI cars will run the proper line there is what normally is the fast line, is up on the wall, about maybe a car width off of the wall in the corners, as opposed to diving it down low, getting towards the apron.
Going 3 wide.
But, that's the one thing that I've noticed in other sims anyways. Whenever you go to a track that is an outside lane dominant track, the AI doesn't handle that well, as we're still 3 wide.
Yep, we are. Multiple laps of 3 wide racing at USA International. Yes, it can be done. They need to be computer controlled, but they can be done. Cole Moore comes into the pits.
Why?
Now, Moore was one of those guys that came in an unnecessary pit stop last week. Andy Allen's in.
If I was Moore, I'd be firing my crew chief right about now.
Yeah, I'm starting to think now that this is a part of the AI pit strategy and the pit strategy slider. That some are, again, you can make it to where some have longer pit stops than others, and I'm assuming now it also means that some are more prone to mistakes than others, as Dominic Lopez has the race lead, but not for long. He's going to give it up because he's coming down pit road again.
This is weird.
Yep, this is one of those unexpected things here from AI Racing. Parker Traves now has the lead, and it looks like Derek Kraus is going to come in. That brings Tony Breedinger up into second. Tanner Reef is back in third after he fell way down the order. There's Tanner. So now we have a battle for second on our hands with Tony Breedinger and Tanner Reef.
And again, if that was mistakes on pit road for the second week in a row for some of these teams, I would seriously be firing the crew chief right about now. Or at least, punching him in the throat for, screwing up my race on me.
Especially for a guy like Cole Moore, who had dominated this race all night long. Wasn't
20
even
laps
close.
to go. 20 laps to go, you're kind of screwed at this point unless everybody else comes in for a third pit stop, which I don't see why they should.
About half the field came in for the second stop at the Bullring last week. Eddie McDonald coming in from just inside the top 10. And Eddie McDonald, that's something we haven't seen all season long. Damage on the right front from McDonald. He's been in the wall somewhere.
Yes, he has.
John Moore
A
in
rare
the 20,
mistake.
Yep, John Moore in the 27 pits from the top 5.
Remind me after this race to tell you my Eddie McDonald story.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, we've seen some great racing all throughout, and it really has changed the dynamic of this race with, you know, a good handful of your top 10 coming down for a second stop as the 11 peels off.
Austin Herzog from 4th. Now, he was one of the guys that did not take an extra pit stop last week. Wayne Stokes pits from the top 10. So it's not it's an issue that has plagued a couple of guys for multiple weeks now. But there are some that have had this issue for multiple weeks, and there are some that have not. So who do you blame? Oh, contact between the 24 and 51.
You know, there is a donut on the door of the 51 now.
And again, that's the 24 who came into pit a third time. There's Cole Moore. He finds himself all alone. He's got a 5-second buffer in front of him, at least a car for position, and 5 seconds behind him to the 24 of Lopez. "13 laps to go," as now here comes Tony. Oh boy, we got a battle for second here, bro. As Tony Breedinger. Oh my goodness, look at this up in front. Boy, it got worse and worse the more we jumped out of it.
Keepers.
Jake Shrew leading that group. Tony Breedinger has gotten to where she wants to be on the inside, at least for the moment, because the 9 of Tanner Reef is battling for position. All of these guys in front are not. Well, they're battling for position amongst each other.
Yeah, but they're not on the lead lap.
Right.
And that's the scary part. If you're the 25 or the 9, is you got to be mindful that, yes, you're racing with each other, but these other guys are racing with themselves. So,
Austin Maynard in the 29, Jeremy Dawson the 75. These two battling for 13th. Tony Breedinger starting to siphon through this as Carson Quapple and John Moore have entered the chat. Boy, John Moore takes it 3 wide. With only 9 laps to go, this is also seriously hurting their chances at catching Parker Traves, who's now 3 3/4 seconds ahead.
Oy vey.
Boy, and Tanner Reef. You'd made a comment before about taking the emotion out of it. This is an instance where
I lied.
No, Tony and Tanner would be screaming at the top of their lungs, "Get out of the way."
Yes. Yes, they absolutely would be.
And now here's Cole Moore getting into the mix. I mean, what racing we have seen here. Questionable pit strategy, to be fair.
It kind of reminds me of the last rookie street stock race you and I spectated together, where we were hearing words and phrases linked together that a truck driver would look at a sailor and go, "Did he really just say that?"
I know what those words mean individually, but put in that order, I'm not quite sure. As here comes Tanner Reef outside of Tony Breedinger, and if he's going to do it, this is how he's going to have to do it. Because Breedinger is intent on keeping that inside line. Just 4 laps to go for Parker Traves.
He's going to make him do it the hard way if he's going to do it at all. Fender to the good for Breedinger as she's now getting pushed by Eddie McDonald.
Yep, Eddie McDonald also with a little bit of rear end damage on that 17. You can see the, actually maybe not, that might have been a...
No, he's got rear end damage. No, you're not seeing things. He definitely received a chrome horn from somebody. As Stokes back in the mix.
Yep, Wayne Stokes, again, another one of the guys that came into pit road.
Boy.
Wayne Stokes is going to have another unfortunate finish. Currently the last running car, running 27th for that 92. 2 laps to go here, and it's seeming pretty academical for Parker Traves here.
Maybe he should stick to farming.
Side-by-side battle here between Breedinger and Reef for second place. Blaine Roca now throwing his hat into the ring as the white flag is displayed. Just 1 more lap to go for these 3 to sort their issue out. As there goes Tanner Reef. Tony Breedinger now trying to avoid losing 3rd, but around 3 and 4 comes Parker Traves. He will win from stone dead last week to the top step of the podium this week.
Oh, Canada.
And Breedinger somehow ended up coming out ahead of Tanner Reef.
Let's go back and see what that last lap looked like
absolutely.
For those 2. Because that was an absolute slugfest.
That was incredible. So again, this
PM.
is... Yep, so again, this is... There goes Breedinger. White flag's going to come out here in just a second. Crossing the line here is going to be the white flag. And Reef has her. Now Reef really has her. This is right around here is where we broke off to see Traves finish. Boy, she got a great run out of 2.
And just sent it going into 3. And that second lane for the first time tonight paid dividends.
Oh,
half a car.
What a finish for second place between the 25 and the 9. Again, Parker Traves was well on his way to victory at that point. But my goodness, what a finish we saw here tonight. We've seen 2 pretty doggone good races here for AI.
Yes, we have. And if this is any indication of what the rest of the season has to plan, folks, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you're notified whenever these races go live, because this is some of the best racing we have seen in quite a while.
Absolutely. It has been an absolute blast to call these races thus far this season. And Tony, 2 races in the books now. We've seen 2 incredible nights of racing, and I really cannot wait until we go to Braselton, Georgia, and sit for 175 laps at Lanier.
Oh, absolutely. As Lanier is going to be a fun one. 3/8 of a mile, medium banking. It's going to be kind of an in-between of what we saw last week and what we saw this week as far as banking-wise. But it's going to be another Bullring style track, and that is always a fun time.
Yep, absolutely. And again, this is what we saw. We saw some guys up towards the front here tonight that we saw last week at the Bullring as well. But we're seeing completely different winners. Again, Parker Traves goes from last week to first this week, qualified 4th this week. Tony Breedinger having a finishing just outside of the top 5 last week at the Bullring. She's up in 2nd this week at a great run from Tanner Reef, who again had the pit strategy miscue last week, now gets it right and finishes third this week. Just a ton of great racing up and down this series, and it's coming true. Anyone can win any of these races.
Yeah, absolutely. But those guys that have had to come down for that extra pit stop late in the event, they're going to have to get that sorted out if they're going to have any shot at the championship. Because, that's definitely, as a driver, that's not something you ever want to have happen, is your crew chief to come in with 20 to go going, we screwed up.
Yeah,
and that's, we talk about with it being AI, it takes the emotion out of it. But as a race fan, it puts the more emotion into it because it's an AI.
Is.
Oh, absolutely. It's pure rage. Solely because you've got a good run going. We saw it tonight with the 99, led the vast majority of the event tonight. The only time that he didn't lead was during the pit stop cycle, and they had to come down for that extra stop. That's like shooting yourself in the foot with a shotgun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just an unbelievable night of racing here tonight, and we get to do it all again next week. But before we get to next week, we will take a look at the finishing results here for tonight's race as Parker Traves comes home with the win in his number 60. Tony Breedinger takes her Venturini Motorsports machine into second. Tanner Reef comes home on the final step of the podium. Blaine Roca and Sean Woodside round out the top 5. Walt Cloud, Derek Griffith, Colby Howard, Sammy Smith, and Mark Wirtz come home in the top 10. And Mark Wirtz is another one. He was way at the back this entire race and comes home and finishes 10th. Gio Selzy, Ty Majeski, Austin Maynard, Jeremy Doss, and Cole Moore round out the top 15 on a night of what could have been for the driver of the 99.
And you're going to have to finish it because my stream just died.
Okay, so that would mean Josh Berry finishing in 16th. Dominic Lopez, Andy Allen, Derek Kraus, and Austin Herzog rounding out the top 20. Trevor Huddleston, Jake Drew, Corey Heim, John Moore, and Carson Quapple in the top 25. And then Eddie McDonald and Wayne Stokes rounding out the finishing order here for tonight's race. So that will do it here for tonight. For my broadcast partner, Tony Trapasso, I am Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. We will see you next week from Lanier National Speedway for the Super Late Model AI Series. Good night, everybody.